Hey, what's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to get hit with the truth. So today we're doing the breakdown video for Stevenson versus Conceicao, as they are colliding for the unified WBC and WBO Super Featherweight Championship on Friday, September 23rd, in the main event of an ESPN card. So we got about 2.5 weeks before this fight, and in my opinion, this might be the biggest fight that can be made in terms of the best fighting the best at 130 right now. Shakur Stevenson's coming off of the biggest win of his career, dominating undefeated Oscar Valdez to unify the WBC and WBO belts. And that really was a fight to determine not only the unified champ, but to determine a top dog at 130. And Stevenson has taken that spot. But Robson Conceicao, most people feel, defeated Oscar Valdez last year. So this really is a fight to determine the top guy at 130 pounds. And I think Conceicao is probably the most dangerous guy that Stevenson can fight at 130 pounds. So very, very good matchup right here. And I truly can't wait to see it. Now, as we normally do with the breakdown videos, we either do underdog and favorite, favorite and then underdog, or champion and challenger. So we will ask, let you know what the fighters have done coming into the fight, and then ask the same questions on both sides. And then we ask, is it better for boxing if one or the other wins? And I give my predictions. So let's jump right in. We start with the undefeated, reigning and unified super featherweight champion of the world, Shakur Stevenson. Stevenson is coming off of basically the two biggest wins of his career in his last two fights. Last October, he dominated Jamel Herring to capture a championship in the second weight class here at 130. Dominated him, stopped him in 10 rounds to capture that belt. And then in April of this year, he took on Oscar Valdez, who was undefeated, and he dominated Valdez over 12 rounds to a convincing 12-round unanimous decision, as he unified the two titles, the WBO and the WBC belts. So now he heads into this fight fully confident and aware that he is the top dog, and he really is on a mission to one or two things, and maybe both if he can get it done in a timely fashion. He wants to unify all the belts at 130, become undisputed, and then move up to 135. Now, whether that can be done or not, we don't know, considering the promotions of the other two champions at 130 right now. But that's Stevenson's goal. And fighting Conceicao kind of just puts a nice bow on whether he's, on the fact that he is the best at 130. And it's also an easy fight to make because they're both with top rank. And, this is a prelude to him moving to 135 at some point, possibly could be after this fight, to make a dent and try to, get the big fights there. So a lot of things motivating the young, undefeated, unified champ here, and I really think he's good to go following his win over Valdez. Now, what kind of style does Stevenson need to have to win this fight? Well, he needs to be, how do I say it? Of course, he's a great, masterful boxer. He needs to, because he's given away a height advantage here, by about, I believe, 3.5 inches to Conceicao, a 2-inch reach advantage. He needs to try to get inside and throw his combinations. But also a good thing is if he forces Conceicao to come to him, he does that, he can counter Conceicao the whole time. But if Conceicao forces Stevenson to come forward, then Stevenson's going to have to go get the fight and get on the inside. And he's going to have to get inside a good jab by Conceicao. Conceicao can box. That's why I think this is not just a one-sided fight on, as many people are going to see it on paper. I don't see it to be that way, because Conceicao's a former Olympian. He's tall, and he's definitely a good boxer. So he's going to have to get on the inside, but I think he should mix it up. I think he should get in and fight and take some rounds that way, and he should also force Conceicao to come to him. So kind of a two-way approach, and just work the body and also use his combinations, and he can definitely win this fight if he can do that. Now, can Stevenson win this fight by knockout? I think he can, but it's not going to be easy because Conceicao is a good boxer and can take shots. But last year, the one thing I did see against Valdez is he did tire down the stretch against Valdez. Now, he didn't seem to be doing that against Xavier Martinez, but those are two totally different fighters. And I think Stevenson, if he puts the pressure on Conceicao, he might be able to wear him down and stop him in the later rounds. Can he win a decision? I absolutely think he can win a decision here. And I think he can win by wide margins. It could be a close one, but I do believe Shakur can win on points. Now, what does a win mean for Shakur Stevenson here? Well, it wouldn't be the biggest of his career, but it would solidify him in that top spot even more so than he is now. Because, again, if you're a real boxing fan, a hardcore boxing fan, you know that even if you feel Valdez won the fight against Conceicao last year, that it was very close and it was controversial. At the very least, you know that, even if you feel Valdez won a close one. But most people, like myself, feel that Conceicao won that fight. And if you feel that way, then Stevenson really didn't beat the second best guy in Valdez. The second best guy could be Conceicao, and this puts a bow on all of that right there and leaves no doubt that Stevenson is the top guy in the division. So a win here would be big for Stevenson. It wouldn't be the biggest, but it would be concrete in terms of his establishment at 130, especially Herring, Valdez, Conceicao, 1, 2, 3 in a row, beat those three guys. I mean, you just seriously locked up the whole division without question, especially if he can win convincingly. Now, what does a loss mean for Stevenson? A loss would devastate his role right now. He is one of the hottest rising stars in the sport. He's now the top guy in the division. A loss to Conceicao would definitely hurt Stevenson and take a lot of that bravado and that steam he's got working for him right now. So a loss really would be devastating for Stevenson. Now we're going to move over to the underdog, the former world title challenger, former Olympian Robson Conceicao, and we're going to break him down. So coming into the fight, Conceicao's coming off of probably his two biggest fights. He had the controversial decision loss to Valdez last September. That was a fight most people feel he won. Valdez did close the fight strong, but Conceicao seemed to outbox him and outclass him prior to that happening. So it's, you know, that really there was a big cloud around that following the loss there. It was the first of his career, but he capitalized on that in January when Top Rank gave him Xavier Martinez, the undefeated prospect on the rise, and it was his first fight with Top Rank, so he wanted to make an impression, and Conceicao just beat the shit out of Martinez. Absolutely dominated him, stopped him, I believe, in the 9th round. Impressively, that was probably the biggest win of his career in terms of on paper, and it led him to this right here, this showdown with Stevenson for the unified title. So big time fight right here for Conceicao. He's coming in, he's hungry, and he wants to win this one. Now, what kind of style, what does he need to do to win this fight? Well, he has the height and reach advantage. He's 3.5 inches taller, and he's 2-inch reach advantage. He needs to use his height, he needs to use his jab, and when Stevenson is coming in at him, he needs to box. And if he can force Stevenson to come at him a lot of the fight, that might help him, but the jab is key here. He needs to throw that jab and keep Stevenson away from throwing the combinations that Stevenson has. He needs to force this into a true chess match, but he needs to use his physical advantages over Stevenson if he wants to win, or if he wants to have a chance at winning, because he is coming in a significant underdog. Now, can Conceicao win this fight by knockout? I really don't see that happening unless he gets just a money punch out of nowhere and stops Stevenson. I really can't see him defeating Stevenson by a knockout, to be honest. I think it's highly unlikely, but you never know. And then can Conceicao win by a decision? In my opinion, that's the only way he can win. But you know, I wouldn't be surprised if he beat Stevenson. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that, because he is a good boxer. And I mean, it will be surprising, but it wouldn't be the biggest upset I've ever seen or heard of. So Conceicao is that good. He's that talented. So I would not be surprised if he pulled this one off. Again, surprising, but not like, oh my God, that's the biggest upset I've ever seen. Definitely not going to have that kind of attitude to it for me. What does a win here mean for Robson Conceicao? I mean, it's huge. He becomes the top guy at 130 pounds and the unified champion. Be his first time winning a title, winning any belts, and he'd win 2. And he'd record his career best win and move up to #1. So it would be huge for Conceicao to defeat Stevenson in this fight. What would a loss mean for Conceicao? Well, obviously a loss always hurts, but depending on how he loses, it wouldn't be the worst thing ever for him, because I don't feel many are expecting him to win this fight anyways. You know, if he were to lose and he loses a close one, it just builds his credit up. You know, and if he loses a blowout, then he can just start back from scratch because he got beat by the best. So I don't think a loss would be so devastating here. So he kind of should go into this one like he's got nothing to lose. Now we ask the 2 questions. Is it better for boxing? The first one, is it better for boxing if Stevenson or Conceicao win? That's easy. It's better for boxing if Stevenson wins. He's an undefeated American, and he's got a flashy style, and you know, and people know him. He's got a good following, so it's absolutely better for boxing if Shakur Stevenson wins this fight. Wouldn't be horrible for a guy like Conceicao, but because he's like from Brazil, he's not well known. It would definitely, it definitely wouldn't be as good for boxing for sure. And finally, what's my prediction on this fight? Who do I think is going to win between Shakur Stevenson and Robson Conceicao? And I'm going with Shakur Stevenson. Now, again, it wouldn't surprise me a great deal if Conceicao pulled off the win, but I can't see him winning 7 rounds. Like, you know, I just can't see him doing that with how good Stevenson is. Stevenson is just so utterly talented and good that I cannot see him losing this fight. But I do think it's going to be a chess match. I do think Conceicao's a live underdog and he's hungry. And I think if anybody at 130 can beat Stevenson, it is Conceicao. I really don't. I looked at all the other guys at 130. I don't think any of the other ones stand a chance against him. But I think Conceicao just might be able to give him some trouble and could make it close. So definitely going to be a chess match, a good boxing battle here. And, you know, if you're a true hardcore sweet science fan, you know, you're going to enjoy the boxing match that these two guys had. I don't feel it's not going to be a slugfest, but it is going to be a chess match, and I enjoy watching those to see who's the better of those fighters. So Stevenson versus Conceicao, this is the breakdown video. I'm picking Stevenson to win by a decision and retain his unified titles. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, smash the like button, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. I appreciate any and all support. This is True Boxing. You've been hit with the truth.